They are said to be beings of light, messengers of the divine, guardians of souls, and silent witnesses to human history. But what if the stories we've been told about angels are only fragments of a much deeper, far older truth? What if angels are not merely celestial messengers with wings, but forces of consciousness itself, ancient intelligences that existed long before humanity learned to speak of heaven or hell? Across every culture, from the Zoroastrian Amesha to the Egyptian Neteru, from the Vedic Devas to the Hebrew Malachim, there is a common thread. All describe radiant beings of wisdom who move between worlds, intermediaries between the mortal and the infinite. And yet, over the centuries, the image of these luminous presences has been softened, reshaped into something more comforting, more human, more controllable. The original terrifying brilliance of these beings, entities so vast that ancient mystics described them as eyes of living fire and wheels within wheels of consciousness, was gradually veiled in metaphor, ritual, and art. But the question remains, what are angels really? Are they external entities born of divine will, or archetypes of higher awareness that dwell within us? Are they cosmic architects shaping reality, or symbolic expressions of the inner evolution of the soul? In this exploration, we will peel back the layers of doctrine and dogma to uncover the esoteric essence of angelic wisdom, a truth hidden beneath centuries of religious interpretation and myth. We'll journey through ancient texts, mystic visions, and secret teachings that reveal angels not as distant winged guardians, but as living frequencies of light, expressions of divine intelligence that shape the very structure of existence. And by the end, you may discover that the most powerful angelic being of all is not beyond the clouds or hidden in sacred temples, but waiting within your own consciousness to be awakened. Now let us begin our descent into the luminous mystery of the angelic realm and uncover why this knowledge was never meant for everyone. Long before angels were adorned with halos and harps, they were described in forms both awe-inspiring and terrifying, radiant intelligences that defied comprehension. The earliest known references to these celestial beings can be traced to Mesopotamia and ancient Persia, where divine messengers, the Amesha and Yazatas, acted as extensions of the Supreme Creator, embodying aspects of creation itself: truth, light, devotion, and divine order. These were not servants, but cosmic principles given form, each representing an eternal vibration within the universal symphony. When these ideas flowed westward, through Babylon into Judaic mysticism, they began to crystallize into the angelic hierarchies we know today. In texts like the Book of Enoch, angels were said to guard sacred knowledge, secrets of the stars, of the elements, of life and death itself. But when humanity began to misuse that wisdom, the angels who shared it were cast down. Thus was born the myth of the fallen ones, a warning about the danger of enlightenment misused. Yet the truth embedded in these ancient tales was never about rebellion. It was about balance. The light cannot reveal without casting shadow. The angel and the fallen one are two reflections of the same cosmic mirror, one ascending toward divine unity, the other descending into material density. Both are necessary for the evolution of consciousness. As centuries passed, esoteric schools such as the Hermetic and Kabbalistic traditions began to decode these beings in symbolic form. In the Kabbalah, for instance, angels are the living expressions of the Sephirot, the 10 emanations of divine energy that descend from the infinite source, or Ein Sof, into the world of matter. They are not personalities but vibrational archetypes, intelligent currents of creation that weave light into form. The mystics of the Renaissance, such as Paracelsus and Agrippa, revived this understanding. They saw angels not as mythic figures, but as natural laws personified, the invisible architects governing everything from planetary motion to the human soul. Each angelic order corresponded to a different frequency, planetary, elemental, or spiritual, harmonizing the link between heaven and earth. But not all traditions saw them as external beings. In the East, The Vedic Devas and Buddhist bodhisattvas carried out similar functions, acting as luminous intelligences that guide the evolution of consciousness. Even the Tibetan Book of the Dead describes luminous beings who appear at death, their radiance mirroring the light of one's own mind. What's truly profound is that nearly every culture describes these entities as vibrations of awareness, not corporeal forms. They move through the frequencies of creation, unseen yet ever present, bridging the spiritual and physical realms. So why was this knowledge hidden? Because to recognize angels not as distant entities, but as living forces of consciousness, accessible through inner alignment, is to realize that the divine hierarchy is not external at all. It is within you. When humanity forgot this, angels became myth, externalized projections of an internal truth. The Church turned messengers of light into instruments of control. Mystics who spoke otherwise were silenced, their writings burned or buried. And yet, the ancient wisdom endures, hidden in symbols, veiled in sacred geometry, encoded in language itself. The angels never left. It was we who stopped perceiving their presence. If angels are not merely winged guardians but vibrations of divine intelligence, what then is their true nature? Imagine reality itself as a vast, infinite field of frequency, a cosmic symphony composed of sound, light, and thought. Every vibration within that field expresses an idea, a pattern, or a consciousness. Within this divine architecture, angels are the mathematics of creation personified, the precise harmonies that shape existence from formless potential into manifested order. The ancient mystics understood this truth deeply. To them, angels were not beings above humanity. They were the structural language of God itself, the living grammar of the universe. Each angelic name, each sigil, each vibration was an articulation of divine will, a note in the celestial scale. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, for example, every sephira has its corresponding angelic order. These are not separate entities but states of awareness, gateways through which consciousness descends and ascends. When you meditate on an angelic name such as Michael or Raphael, you are not summoning an external being. You are resonating with a frequency of divine consciousness, awakening that same principle within yourself. But there's a reason this was guarded knowledge. To work with angelic energy is to interact directly with universal laws, with forces so pure that they reveal the unfiltered mirror of your own soul. The angels do not serve your desires. They reflect your essence. Their true messages are frequencies of remembrance, awakening what has been forgotten within you. Throughout history, those who dared to approach this mystery were often transformed or consumed. The prophet Enoch described being taken into the chariots of fire and shown the architecture of the heavens, where beings of light sang the geometry of creation into existence. The Hermetic texts echo the same. The idea that angels are the intelligences of the spheres, governing the planetary currents that shape human destiny. Every celestial body was seen as alive, a conscious entity guided by an angelic mind. The sun, the moon, the stars, all manifestations of divine awareness in motion. The ancients called this the music of the spheres, the unending song of the cosmos. To the esoteric initiate, the angelic hierarchies are not a hierarchy of beings, but of vibrational density. The higher the angelic order, the closer its frequency to the source. Pure light, pure consciousness. The lower orders, closer to matter, become the architects of nature, shaping elements, seasons, and the rhythm of life itself. And humanity stands between these worlds, the bridge between the angelic and the material, the divine and the human. We are both listener and instrument, both student and co-creator. The great alchemists believed that the purpose of the magnum opus, the great work, was not to command angels, but to become one, to refine the lead of human consciousness into the gold of divine perception, aligning the microcosm with the macrocosm until the soul itself resonates with the celestial order. When this harmony is achieved, The angelic forces no longer appear as separate entities. They reveal themselves as reflections of your own divinity, because ultimately, the angelic realm is not somewhere up there. It is a frequency of consciousness that exists right here, vibrating just beyond the limits of ordinary perception. To perceive angels, you must raise your own vibration, through stillness, through awareness, through purity of thought and intent, until you remember that you are made of the same light. And perhaps this is why angelic knowledge has always been hidden. Because once humanity remembers that the divine hierarchy is not a chain of command but a map of consciousness, the illusion of separation collapses. The angels do not rule us. They invite us to awaken as equals, co-creators of light. If angels are emanations of divine consciousness, then what of the fallen ones? Were they truly rebels cast from heaven? Or did their descent serve a deeper purpose? To understand this mystery, we must go beyond the literal tales and see the metaphysical allegory behind them. The fall was never about punishment. It was about descent, the movement of divine intelligence into density, spirit into matter, light into shadow. The fallen angels are not villains in the cosmic story. They are the engineers of incarnation, the intelligences that brought spirit into physical experience so consciousness could know itself through contrast. In esoteric traditions, this descent of light is called the Great Sacrifice. The archangels who fell did so not from pride, but from purpose, to help weave the matrix of creation where souls could evolve through polarity. In this sense, Lucifer, whose name means light-bringer, is not the enemy of God but the symbol of divine light entering the world of form. Only when that light is forgotten does it become shadow. The true battle between angels and demons, then, is not a war in heaven. It is a war within consciousness. Every human being carries that same duality, the aspiration to ascend and the gravity that pulls us into matter. The harmony between these forces determines our evolution. The mystics understood this long ago. The Gnostics taught that angels and archons are not enemies, but counterparts, the radiant and reflective sides of divine intelligence. In Hermetic philosophy, the 7 planetary archangels were balanced by their shadow counterparts, symbolizing the eternal rhythm of creation and destruction. Without this polarity, the cosmos would remain static, lifeless, unchanging, and incomplete. Even the Kabbalists spoke of this mystery. For every sephira on the tree of life, there exists a mirrored shell, a qliphoth, representing the distorted echo of divine energy. The initiate's journey through both, light and shadow, reveals not punishment or sin, but the alchemy of integration. Only by facing the shadow does the soul awaken its full angelic potential. So what does this mean for us? It means that angels do not come to remove darkness from our lives. They come to illuminate it. To help us see that every fear, every desire, every shadow aspect is simply divine energy misunderstood, waiting to be reclaimed. That is why so many angelic encounters described in Scripture begin with the words, "Do not be afraid." Because to stand in the presence of your own divine light, your own vastness, is overwhelming. The angel is not a being you meet outside yourself. It is the awakening of awareness so pure that it terrifies the ego. It dissolves illusions, attachments, false identities. It burns away everything that is not truth. That is why angelic encounters often come with fire, lightning, or blinding radiance. The symbolism of transformation, purification, rebirth. And here lies the secret the mystics guarded. The fallen and the divine are one. When the soul remembers its origin, the fallen rises again, not to return to heaven, but to make heaven visible on earth. This is the hidden truth of angelic being, not war, not hierarchy, not blind obedience, but balance. The light descends so it may ascend through us. We are not the audience of angelic drama. We are its continuation. Every act of forgiveness redeems a fallen angel. Every moment of awareness gives light to the shadows. And perhaps this is the real revelation. Angels do not save us from darkness. they teach us to become light within it. The ancient mystics never studied angels as mere myth. They communed with them, but not through summoning rituals or blind faith. They understood that contact with the angelic realm comes from vibrational resonance, tuning your inner world until it matches the harmony of divine intelligence. You cannot call an angel in the way one calls a person. You can only become aligned with its frequency. 1. The stillness technique, the gateway to the subtle realms. Find a place of silence, no music, no distractions, just breath. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. With every breath, imagine golden light rising from your heart and expanding through your body. When your mind quiets, speak inwardly, not words, but intention. I open my awareness to the harmony of divine intelligence. Do not expect a voice or vision. Instead, pay attention to the subtle shift, the sensation that the air itself is listening, vibrating. That is the threshold of angelic awareness. The more you dwell there, the more you attune to the higher frequencies where the angelic current flows. This is how mystics heard angels, not through sound, but through resonance. 2. The sigil of light, anchoring the energy. Each angelic frequency can be visualized as geometry, the purest language of light. To create your own anchor, draw a simple circle with a triangle within it. At the center, place a small dot, the spark of the divine. As you meditate, visualize this symbol glowing with radiant gold. The triangle represents the trinity of mind, body, and spirit. The circle represents eternity. The dot, the divine spark within you. When you breathe slowly and focus on this image, you are not imagining. You are invoking alignment. This sigil becomes a mirror, not summoning an external being, but reflecting your higher nature back to you. 3. The angelic invocation of vibration. If you wish to go deeper, use the power of sound. The ancients believed that vibration bridges the worlds. Chanting sacred syllables, such as Ah, El, or Om, produces a frequency that harmonizes the body and expands perception. Begin with a single tone, drawn out on the breath. Visualize waves of golden energy radiating outward, filling your space with stillness and clarity. After several repetitions, you may feel a warmth, a subtle ringing, or even a presence that feels both beyond and within you. That presence is the angelic current. 4. The practice of living light beyond ritual. Angelic awareness is lived through virtue, not moral dogma, but vibration. Every act of compassion, gratitude, and clarity raises your frequency. Every moment of anger, envy, or deceit lowers it. To live as an angel means to become a vessel of resonance, to carry light through thought, word, and action. It is not about perfection, but alignment. Each time you choose harmony over discord, truth over illusion, you strengthen your link to the higher planes. Angelic connection is not a mystical event reserved for saints or prophets. It is the natural state of a soul that remembers its origin, a being of light exploring form. Through practice, silence, and awareness, you realize that angels were never watching you from above. They were always singing within you. When you strip away the wings, the halos, the symbols, what are angels truly? They are echoes of our own divine memory, fragments of light reminding us of what we once were and what we are destined to become again. The hidden truth is that the angelic realm was never separate from us. It is the higher octave of human consciousness, the pure resonance of awareness before it was divided by fear, ego, and time. Every whisper you hear in moments of clarity, every sudden insight that feels both familiar and eternal, that is the angelic current flowing through your soul. The ancient mystics knew this. They did not worship angels. They studied their patterns, mirrored their harmony, and eventually became them. Because to become angelic is not to grow wings. It is to remember that your thoughts shape light, your words carry vibration, and your presence bends reality itself. This is why angels are always described as messengers. Their message is not a command from heaven. It is a reflection of truth within you. They remind us that divine wisdom does not arrive from above, but awakens from within. Perhaps the greatest illusion humanity ever accepted was that heaven is elsewhere, distant, unreachable. But the moment you silence the noise of the world, you realize the gates of heaven were never closed. They were hidden in your perception. To walk with angels, then, is to walk in awareness, to think, speak, and act in harmony with the frequencies of creation, to live not as a seeker of light but as an expression of it. And so the question is no longer, do angels exist? The real question is, when will you remember that you are one? Because the divine is not waiting to be found. It is waiting to be remembered.